Look at a map of the Caribbean. Let your eyes drift over that beautiful chain of islands, like jewels scattered on a blue ocean blanket. Find the big ones right in the heart of it all. These are the Greater Antilles: Cuba, Hispaniola, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. Long before any ships from Europe crossed the vast Atlantic, these islands were home to a vibrant and powerful people. They were the Taino. They built their world here, weaving their lives into the very fabric of the Green Mountains and the turquoise sea. Their stories, their art, their way of life were perfectly in tune with the rhythm of the waves and the warmth of the sun. On a clear map, you can see the unique shapes of each island. But for the Taino, these were more than just shapes on the water. Each one held a story, a purpose, a sacred meaning. One of their most important creation myths speaks of two sacred caves, Katsibajagua and Amayauna, on the island of Hispaniola. From one cave, the first Taino people emerged to populate the world. From the other, all the other peoples of the earth appeared. This isn't just an old fairy tale. It's a spiritual map that connects people directly to the land they call home. These stories are not just fantastic legends from a forgotten time. They are living guides that help people understand their place in the world. A myth can point you to a specific river where a spirit lives, or a bay where the best fishing can be found. A story can give a mountain its name and its soul, turning a simple landmark into a place of power and memory. In this way, the physical map of the islands and the spiritual map of their myths work together. They were two halves of the same whole, a powerful combination that kept the history, the culture, and the very spirit of the Taino people alive for generations. So, as we begin this journey, let's look at the Caribbean not just as a vacation spot, but as a homeland. Let's see it through the eyes of the people who knew it first and knew it best. The map shows us where they lived, but their myths tell us how they lived, what they believed, and what they cherished. By putting these two things together, we can start to understand the incredible rise of the Taino civilization. We can feel the pulse of their communities, the strength of their leaders, and the deep respect they had for the world around them. This is a story of resilience, innovation, and a deep connection to the earth. So, who exactly were the Taino? They were a remarkable Arawakan-speaking people, part of a larger family of cultures that originated in the Amazon basin of South America. Imagine the courage it took to venture out into the open sea. They traveled in massive hand-carved canoes, moving northward from the coast of what is now Venezuela, island by island, across the Lesser Antilles. Eventually, they settled in the Greater Antilles, establishing a thriving civilization that would last for centuries. They were not wandering nomads. They were master settlers, farmers, fishermen, artists. Their journey was one of incredible skill and deep knowledge of the natural world. They were not just drifting on the currents. They were navigating. They read the stars at night and understood the patterns of the winds and the sea. Upon arriving on these new island homes, they didn't just survive, they thrived. They transformed the landscape with their agriculture, planting vast fields of cassava, maize, sweet potatoes, beans. They became expert fishermen, learning the secrets of the coastal reefs and the deep waters. They hunted the birds and small animals of the dense forests. Their entire existence was a balanced dance with the rhythms of the sea and the cycles of the rain. The Taino were the dominant culture in the Caribbean when Europeans first arrived. Their name, Taino, translates to good or noble, a name they used to distinguish themselves from their rivals, the island Caribs. They had developed a complex and well-organized society long before contact. They were a people of peace for the most part, but they were also fierce when they needed to be, defending their homes and families. Understanding their origins is key to appreciating the incredible world they built. It's important to see them not as a simple primitive tribe, but as a sophisticated civilization. The Taino built their lives with the materials the islands provided, creating homes that were both simple and incredibly effective. Their main houses were called bohíos. These were circular buildings with a strong wooden frame. They had walls of woven reeds and a high cone-shaped roof thatched with palm leaves. This brilliant design allowed air to circulate, keeping the inside cool during the hot days. The steep roof shed the heavy tropical rains, keeping everyone dry. Villages were made up of many of these bohíos, arranged around a central plaza. This plaza, known as a baité, was the heart of the community, a place for gatherings. The baité hosted ceremonies and games. At the center of the village, a larger rectangular house often stood. This was the Kaini, the home of the leader, the cacique, and his family. Its size and shape signified his importance and served as a meeting place for elders. Life was a shared effort, and work was divided to support everyone. Men cleared fields, hunted in forests, and fished the sea, protectors and providers. The women were the heart of the home and guardians of the fields. They grew yucca, grated it, pressed out its poisonous juices, and baked the flour into a long-lasting cassava bread. The women were also the primary craftspeople, weaving beautiful cotton hammocks. They crafted intricate pottery and made baskets and mats from palm fibers. Their work was both practical and artistic. This daily life was filled with skill and purpose. They created the tools they needed from wood, stone, shell, and bone. They fashioned sharp stone axes for clearing trees and carving canoes. They made elaborate nets from cotton fibers for fishing, and carved elegant bowls and utensils for their meals. From cooking pots to woven hammocks, everything carried artistry and care. It wasn't just survival, it was a stable, comfortable, beautiful life in harmony with the land. Taino society was not a free-for-all. It was a well-organized community, with clear lines of authority and respect. At the top stood the cacique, chief of the village or a larger district. The position wasn't won by brute force. It was typically inherited, often through the mother's line, showing women's importance. The cacique was more than a ruler, a guide, a spiritual leader, the ultimate decision-maker. He organized daily work, led war parties when needed, and managed trade with other villages. He hosted important religious ceremonies and community feasts. He was responsible for his people's well-being, redistributing tribute, especially in times of need. Beneath him were the Nitainos, nobles and warriors, advisors and deputies. The vast majority were the Naborias, farmers, fishers, artisans, whose labor supported everyone in a balanced, resilient system. Religion and spirituality were not separate from daily life for the Taino. They were woven into every aspect of their existence. Their world was alive with spirits, shaping everything from farming to fishing to family life. At the core of their religion was the veneration of zemis. A zemi was a powerful spiritual entity, which could be a god, an ancestor spirit, or a spirit of the natural world, like the wind or the rain. These spirits were not distant or abstract. They were active forces that could influence the world for good or for ill. The Taino believed that by honoring the zemis, they could ensure a good harvest, a safe canoe journey, or a healthy child. They gave physical form to these spirits in wood, stone, bone, and shell, living objects that housed the spirit, from small amulets to grand figures in shrines. With expressive faces and chambers for offerings, they were fed, prayed to, and consulted for guidance. At the very heart of the Taino village was the baity. It was a large, flat rectangular plaza that served as the community's central stage. This was where people gathered for ceremonies, dances, and most importantly, their famous ball game. The court was often lined with carved stones depicting zemis, marking it as a sacred space. Entire villages would come together to watch, and visiting teams would join. The game itself was fast-paced and incredibly athletic, played with a solid rubber ball. Teams could include both men and women. The objective: keep the ball in the air without using hands or feet. They struck the ball with hips, thighs, knees, shoulders, and heads, with skill, agility, and teamwork. But the game was not just about winning or losing. Matches were often played to settle disputes between villages, a substitute for warfare. Communities accepted the outcome as final. Surrounded by song, chant, drums, and feasting, the baity game united law, sport, and celebration at the village's vibrant heart. The sea was not a barrier for the Taino. It was their highway. It was the road that connected their world, and they were the undisputed masters of it. Their key was the canoa, or canoe, a magnificent vessel crafted with controlled fire and stone adzes from massive silk cotton or cedar trees. Some could hold over 100 people, sleek, stable, and perfect for reef coasts and open ocean alike. With these canoes, they built a vast network of trade and communication across the Greater Antilles. Constant movement kept their world connected. They traded essentials like salt and flint for tool making, along with luxury goods, textiles, exquisite pottery, and beautiful jewelry. Ideas and stories traveled with goods, uniting a civilization. They had no compasses or modern charts. The sun guided them by day, and the stars by night. They knew the winds and ocean currents, which to ride and which to avoid. They read seabirds and cloud shapes to find land, a science born of centuries of observation. The canoe symbolized their freedom, ingenuity, and courage. In 1492, the Taino world was forever changed. 3 strange ships, larger than any canoe they had ever seen, appeared on the horizon. This was the fleet of Christopher Columbus. Their arrival marked the beginning of a catastrophic collision between 2 worlds. Guided by hospitality, the Taino offered food, cotton, and parrots, intrigued by metal tools, clothing, and foreign appearance. But this cautious exchange would not last. The Europeans were not there to trade as equals, but driven by a hunger for gold and conquest. They forced tribute of gold dust. Violence followed when gold was scarce. Enslavement for mines and plantations shattered society and families. Even worse were diseases. Smallpox, measles, influenza, sweeping islands like wildfire. Populations plummeted at a terrifying rate, a demographic collapse of unimaginable proportions. Caciques led fierce rebellions, fighting with courage and knowledge of terrain. Their weapons met steel and gunpowder. Within decades, organized Taino society was shattered. For a long time, history books said the Taino had vanished, wiped out by disease and conquest. But that's not the whole story. A people are more than numbers. Culture, language, knowledge, bloodline. Chiefdoms were destroyed, but survivors blended into new societies, intermarrying with Europeans and enslaved Africans. Their legacy sings in everyday words: hurricane, barbecue, hammock, you're speaking Taino, canoe, maize, cassava, iguana, all gifts from Taino language. Place names across the islands carry Taino origins. Their influence runs deep in food. Taino methods, yuca, sweet potatoes, and corn, still nourish rural communities. Roasting over fire, the original barbecue. Traditional medicinal knowledge endures. Practical living traditions have sustained people for 500+ years, a direct inheritance. Archaeology and history are bringing the Taino past to light and correcting old narratives. Museums now share these stories with respect and accuracy. The story of the Taino is not just one of tragedy and loss. It is a powerful story of survival, resilience, and cultural rebirth. A vibrant movement is growing across the Caribbean and the diaspora. People in Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Jamaica are proudly reclaiming Taino heritage. Genetic studies confirm widespread Native American ancestry, a living link. It's more than ancestry, it's identity. The revival spans language, pottery, weaving, music, dance, and ceremony. Artists breathe new life into sacred forms. Educators replace extinction myths with a narrative of endurance. Respect is the foundation. Listening to elders who kept stories alive, treating Taino culture as living, not a relic, supporting the communities leading this revival, and honoring their connection to the land. When we learn their stories, speak their words, and appreciate their contributions, we help their legacy grow and thrive. So let's end with hope. The Taino past is shaping a stronger future and deeper roots. The map and the myth are joining hands once again. The map shows us the land. The reclaimed myths and stories are filling that land with meaning. The canoes may no longer cross the sea in the same way, but the spirit of the Taino, a spirit of courage, ingenuity, and deep love for their island home, sails on in the hearts of their descendants. And that is a legacy worth fighting for.